Only 4 boats in this, and the standout boat is, of course, France 1 on this near-side lane. Hugo Berry and Ferdinand Ludwig will take you through the lanes. These are the 2 youngsters, Antoine Lefebvre from Aviron Moulin-le-Moureau, which is just west of Paris, and Cornelius Palsma from l'Aviron du Pays de Fontainebleau. 2 Argentine rowers, Alejandro Comeno and Pedro Dixon. Here are the Mexicans, burst on the scene last year, Miguel Cabo Nieto and Alexis Lopez Garcia. They're Paris-bound. And the favourites for this race, Hugo Berry up in the bow seat, looking round there from Société Nautique de Nancy, and Ferdinand Ludwig from Aviron de Lac Bleu. And if you've been to Lac Bleu, just by Annecy, the rowing club is just by the camping there. Yeah, it's a nice place.
Gone a little training camp, couldn't you?
Absolutely.
Camping and rowing at Lac Bleu. And that's it. We are off a small but mighty field here in the lightweight men's double sculls. And the Mexicans were just brilliant last year, weren't they? I think there were a lot of people who were vying for them in that B final at the World Championships. Just one spot available in that B final
and they
to qualify, and they got it, and it was amazing. But they're down currently on the French.
Yeah, they took 4th place in Lucerne last year. They haven't really quite lit up the world as much as they did last year. They finished 2nd in the small final in Lucerne. So, yeah, the Mexicans, to me, look to be the most dangerous crew. But that bow of number 3 is the Mexicans, just ahead of the young French double over there in lane 1. And the Argentine double there, on the left of your picture, it's Pedro Dixon from Buenos Aires Rowing Club. And the bowman from the Club de Regate Español Tigre, which is also a club in Buenos Aires. He was a part-time coach. The French have struggled, haven't they, to find a lightweight double that have worked since the great years of Pierre Huin and Jeremy Azou, who took the title ahead of the O'Donovan brothers in Rio.
And Pierre Huin now part of the sort of Paris 24 coordinating committee. I think he's the equipment coordinator for both the Olympics and the Paralympics, the French Olympic champion from this boat class. But both Bourret and Ludwig, neither of them in the squad, in the senior squad at the time of the last Olympic Games. So both knew this Olympiad. Ferdinand Ludwig was on the under-23 team when the Tokyo Games was on. So both new talents, relatively new talents, you know, following Tokyo. And given the history, like you've said, in this event for the French, it's a staple event for them to get right at home games.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, this French double killed it at the qualifiers in Lucerne. There we see them there riding with the 23-year-olds, the younger of the 2, Ludwig in the stroke seats. There's the youngsters over on the far side, Cornelius Palmsa and Antoine Lefebvre.
It would be great, you know, we've seen some great performances from young development crews, and this Lefebvre and Palsma crew, under-23 bronze medalists from the 2023 under-23 championships in Plovdiv. And if they can stick with this pace, you know, you can see their bow ball there just in the background of the Mexicans. They'd be on for a medal here in this event, which would be a great start to their senior careers.
Yeah, I think the Mexicans are doing better than we saw in the preliminary race. You see the boat speed is pretty close to matching the French number 1. And to my way of thinking, if this French double are going to be legitimate podium contenders, they've got to win this race by clear water. They've got to push out on the Mexicans, because the Mexicans are going to be at the top end of the A final, the bottom end of the A final, you know, top end of the B final. If this French double want to be on the podium, they've got to get maybe a length of clear water on the Mexicans in the second half of this race. But so far, it's France 1 through in 3:13. Not going to trouble world's best time pace, that's 3:02. But they are rowing in headwind conditions, these athletes. It's the French on the bottom of your screen. It's the Mexicans next up for them. Then in 4th place, it was the Argentine double of Comino and Dixon, and it's the young French double over there on the far side in third place.
Now here they go, Martin, trying to break this clear water. They look very smooth, they look very deliberate and direct, you know, with that leg drive. But nice rowing and pretty rowing isn't necessarily what we see on the podium a lot of the time at the Worlds, at the Olympics, from the likes of your islands. You know, Switzerland, there's a little bit more urgency about it usually for those podium contenders.
Yeah, you have that extra X factor. You know, so when you see O'Donovan and McCarthy, for example, they've got enormous power that they can bring into the race. Mexicans very smooth, very contained. See, they've got that body holding at the front end and opening out against the hips, driving the boat forward. But the French starting to get that clear water that we demanded of them, Camilla.
Yeah, and they will have to, now that they know that they've got their ticket to Paris. This is the thing about going through the final Olympic qualification regatta, which if you're tuning in at home and you don't know what that is, there's one regatta that takes place in Switzerland every 4 years, just prior to the Olympics, where there are 2 final places available in every boat class, and you have to go and race. They call it the Regatta of Death, and the French were there, they won that race, and that's the only time they knew they were guaranteed a spot at the Olympic Games, both Ludwig and Bure. So they've had since then, 3 weeks ago, to go, right, we're definitely going to the Olympics. What are we going to do now? And this is hence why racing at Poznan's a great thing for a lot of those crews that have come through the FAQR. It's a chance for them to deliberately sort of put a race plan together in a competitive environment, and look, they're now starting to sail away.
And if you're wondering why the Swiss double who were entered aren't here, it's because Raf Ahmed Ireland had a rib injury. We think it's muscular, it's not skeletal. We were talking to Jan Schauble, who won the lightweight men's single here, his partner, and he's really hopeful that Rafi will be back in the boat before very long. So that's the Swiss double story, but this clear water margin. So really what these guys have got to do as they come into the last 250 is get that boat speed up. The rating is up at 40, and they need to put that margin between them and the Mexicans. This is all about whether they can go to Paris and be genuine contenders for a podium place against the Swiss, against the Irish, and those other crews. The French are now driving for the line. They're coming up to the line. There's the Mexicans. The second French double driving for bronze medal. But it is Berry and Ludwig who take a very well-deserved gold. That's a great margin. They will be absolutely delighted with their work in the second 1,000 metres. Gold for France 1, silver for the Mexicans. France 2, the youngsters, head in ahead of the Argentine double, who are also going to be in Paris, but they have to settle for 4th place here. So a France gold and bronze medal with the Mexicans sandwiched in the middle, but I think the thing about that performance was the second 1,000, Camilla.
Yeah, the second 1,000, they kicked in, I think always the sign of a really mature crew who can bring it to the boil when they absolutely need to, and that's it. Sort of, you know, heated up as time went on through that 2,000 metres, and a great margin to conclude that race there for Hugo Bure and Ferdinand Ludwig.
Yeah, and the Mexicans were delighted with that performance, and you know, we shouldn't underestimate what a World Cup medal will mean of any colour, of any sort, to the Mexicans. And it's great to see them over here. Don't know whether they're going back to Mexico before Paris or staying in Europe to prepare their training.
Yeah, Alexi Lopez Garcia, an under-23 medalist multiple times, and great to see him in the driving seat of that lightweight men's double with Caballero Nieto. But yeah, brilliant performance. Ludwig and Bure, you can see the ocean of clear water they've got off to their stern there between them and the Mexican. That's a good buffer, but is it a good enough buffer come the home games in, I keep saying it, 41 days' time from today? And yeah, they certainly seem happy with that. A punch to the sky for Mexico. And there are the final results. 7 seconds, the margin there in the end for Bure and Ludwig.